Starbucks is Amardeep Singh, and you like a latte with 2 pumps. And thank you. I'm honored. Thank you so much to the El-Hibre Foundation, to the El-Hibre family. I wish all America would be here today. I really would. One day, we're going to see a better world for this community. And I think some of us are going to be in our rocking chairs and say, yeah, I remember going to those El-Hibre events, and those were the beginnings of something. So thank you to the El-Hibre Foundation. Thank you to Farhan. Thank you to the very passionate staff that you have who are mission-driven, because there is no way other to win than to be mission-driven, so thank you. I drove down here this morning with my mom, my pop, my 82-year-old aunt from California, my wife, my 3 boys, Azad, Nishan, and 2-year-old Sirtaj. The last 2 people who were out the door to come to this event were my mom and my wife, because they were getting the rest of us ready. Let's give it up for all the mothers. You know, it's a Farhan show, so he had us write a speech, and I did write a speech, but I'm not going to read from it. I'll go by it, but I won't read from it, and I hope that's okay, Mr. Farhan. On the morning of 9/11, when this work began for me, I was in Washington, D.C. I was getting an LLM in International Human Rights Law. I had left a private law firm job. I had a dream and a vision of fighting for human rights around the world. I was late, sorry Farhan, going to an externship that I had at a group called the World Organization Against Torture in DC. I was stressed out because I was running late. I walked into the building where that organization was located, and somebody looked at me, pointed at me, and yelled, "You need to watch him. Watch out. Keep a close eye on him." I didn't know what was going on. The concierge at that point said, "Sir, 2 planes have hit the World Trade Center. Another plane has gone to the Pentagon. We're right near the White House. You need to leave now." My car was pointed north on Connecticut Avenue, and I decided to drive home, straight home, without going to my apartment to New Jersey to be with my family. I did that because during the Iran hostage crisis, my father would be told to go back to Iran. During the first Persian Gulf War, I would get crank calls at college telling me to go back to Iraq. After Oklahoma City, a law school classmate joked and said, "Your people are going to get a lot of flack for what happened in Oklahoma until they found out Mr. McVeigh had committed what he committed." After the first attack on the World Trade Center, Gurdwaras, Sikh houses of worship, were vandalized. So I knew what was going to happen, and I didn't want to be alone. So I drove north, back home. About an hour and a half outside of DC, I had probably the worst experience, or maybe the worst conversation I had with my mom. She asked, she reached me, and she asked if I had my bandana in the car. I replied, yes, I wear a bandana when I play sports. She said, "Can you put it on?" Now, I had never removed my turban in public before, and I told her, "Mom, I'm not going to do it." She said, "Please." I said, "Mom, I'm not going to do it." Now, the reason why I didn't do it, when I think about it, is that my father, when he came to this country and he landed in New York, the person who picked him up said, "We've made an appointment for you with a barber. Let's make sure we cut your hair and remove your turban before anybody sees you." Now, my father never made it to that barbership appointment, and I sure as hell was not going to remove my turban that day. Let's be honest. What my mom feared, what I feared, played out. Over 1,200 Muslim men were held as detainees in secret without a hearing, or hearings held in camera, as 9/11 suspects. Not one of them was found to have had anything to do with it. 83,000 Muslim men after 9/11, including my brother Farhan, were made to specially register with the federal government to prove that they were here in the country lawfully. They had done nothing wrong other than be from a Muslim country. Times were dark, but what was notable about that time, that there was a bipartisan consensus, conservative, progressive, you name it, of silence, utter silence. I remember lonely protests outside of Passaic County Jail where Muslim men were held in secret. Maybe there were a dozen people there. Nobody said a thing. But let me tell you something. From where I sit on 9/11 Arc, I see green shoots today, everywhere. I see green shoots, and let's start with what, where, and why. Let's start with the uprising that occurred in this country after the first Muslim ban. People who had never shown up or spoken on behalf of Muslims were flooding airports. All of a sudden, folks saw the story, their story, the story of American democracy, the story of American liberty, the story of American freedom, in the story of the American Muslim community. And they said, "I am going to go out." But it didn't stop there. During the 2016 election, I'm not sure if folks are aware, but over 500 local elected officials around the country signed a letter saying, "I am pledging as a local elected official to stand up against anti-Muslim sentiment. It is wrong and it is un-American." Today, and it didn't exist in the 9/11 moment, there are over 3,000 U.S. military veterans who have pledged to stand up against Islamophobia, to come to the mosque, to introduce themselves and say, "Whenever you need me, I am ready to stand with you." We now know that whenever there's an attack on the mosque in this country, there's usually a local faith community that is ready to stand with the Muslim community and say, "This is wrong, we are going to fight this." That is very different than the post-9/11 moment. In the past year and a half, Microsoft, Amazon, Chevrolet, Honeymaid, CoverGirl, YouTube have all made advertisements featuring Muslim folks, knowing about the backlash, but they self-elected to make those ads because they wanted to say something in their own corporate way about what was going on. Apple, Facebook, Google, Uber, as troublesome as some of those platforms may be, they all publicly have said, "We are not going to use our company's resources to build a Muslim registry." There's a growing movement to have pop culture producers in this country listen to American Muslim stories and incorporate American Muslim stories into pop culture production in the United States. And last but not least, in a way that I never saw after 9/11, American Muslims are running for office, and sometimes they're winning.
Whoa.
Today, unlike the immediate aftermath of 9/11, American Muslim communities are not alone in resisting bigotry and discrimination. There's a fast developing infrastructure of which this foundation is a part that understands that the fate of our collective freedom is tied to the fate and the treatment of American Muslims in the United States. So what do I have to say to you? What is my message? Let's keep at it. Help us on the way. There are people who are going to stand with you. Be proud of who you are. Be proud to say that you're Muslim. Be proud to wear your hijab. Be strong in who you are. Because when you're doing it, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the well-being of this country. So thank you so much to the El-Hibre Foundation. Thank you so much for this honor today. I couldn't be more happy to be here, and I couldn't be more excited to go and fight this generational struggle with you. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Mr. Singh. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, it's my pleasure also to introduce our next